My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. 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 I seem to be thinking about. I seem to be thinking about. What are you thinking about? I seem to be thinking about. I seem to be thinking about. But my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm a forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, Miracle Willie, and we're ready for lesson 108, or lesson 8, here on January the 8th of 2024. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of Course in Miracles this year. Did I say on, let's see, today is Monday, January the 8th of 2024. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. This idea, of course, is the reason why you see only the past. This idea is, of course, the reason why you see only the past. No one really sees anything. He sees only his thoughts projected outward. The mind's preoccupation with the past is the cause of the misperceptions about time from which your seeing suffers. Your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is. It therefore cannot understand time and cannot, in fact, understand anything. The one wholly true thought one can hold about the past is that it is not here. The one wholly true thought one can hold about the past is that it is not here. It's not here now. It's in the past. To think about it at all is therefore to think about illusions. To think about it at all is therefore to think about illusions. Very few have realized what is actually entailed in picturing the past or in anticipating the future. The mind is actually blank when it does this, because it is not really thinking about anything. The purpose of the exercises for today is to begin to train your mind to recognize when it is not really thinking at all. While thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. Recognizing that your mind has been merely blank, rather than believing that it is filled with real ideas, is the first step in opening the way to vision. Vision, the way that the eyes of Christ see in this world. When you're looking at what's real. We're going to learn a lot about that in our text reading today, about how we can separate what's an illusion from what's true. If it's loving, it's real, it's true. And if it's fearful, it's an illusion, no matter how much it seems to be real and justified in believing. Paragraph 4 in today's lesson. The exercises for today should be done with eyes closed. This is because you actually cannot see anything, and it is easier to recognize that no matter how vividly you may picture a thought, you are not seeing anything. With as little investment as possible, Search your mind for the usual minute or so, merely noting the thoughts you find there, naming each one by the central figure or theme it contains, and pass on to the next. Introduce the practice period by saying, I seem to be thinking about, and then blank. I seem to be thinking about, and blank. Then name each of your thoughts specifically. For example, I seem to be thinking about, and then name a person that you might be thinking about, or name an object you might be thinking about, or name an emotion you might be thinking about, or a concept, whatever your mind's thinking about, and so on, concluding at the end of the mind searching period with the idea, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. This can be done 4 or 5 times during the day, unless you find it irritates you. If you find it trying, 3 or 4 times is sufficient. You might find it helpful, however, to include your irritation or any emotion that the idea for today may induce, if the mind's in the mind searching itself. So if you're a little upset, you only have to do it 3 times, he says. If it kind of bothers you, that, I don't like this idea. That's silly. That I'm not thinking about anything. That my mind's actually blank. What a bunch of crock, you might be saying. Well, note that is what you're thinking, and then just do it for still the minute or so of looking at your thoughts, and then let the thought go. Pick up the next one. Then just do it for a minute 3 times. But use the emotion that you're feeling about the idea is what he's saying. Okay, very practical. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Okay, let's go look in our text reading. We're going to learn a lot of good things in this reading today. We're still in chapter 1. We're ready for Roman numeral 6, the illusion of needs. And while you're turning there, let me tell you about what's going on around the world today. I found this on holidaysandobservances.com. It's Argyle Day. Argyle is a Scottish textile pattern. Bubble Bath Day. Good day to soak in a bubble bath, huh? Coming of Age Day, which is a Japanese holiday for all you 18-year-olds. Earth's Rotation Day. A day to remember that the Earth rotates on its axis. World and International Typing Day, which goes along with World Literacy Day. Midwife's Day, or Women's Day in Greece. National Clean Off Your Desk Day. I need to practice that more often. National English Toffee Day. National Gluten-Free Day. National Joy Germ Day. And Joy Germ is the idea that joy is contagious. So be joyful and let it spread throughout the world. Let you be the part of the contagion. National Man Watchers Day. National Weigh-In Day. National Winter Skin Relief Day. Plow Day. Plow Day was an English kind of observance when your farmers would go back to begin to plow their fields for the next year. In permaculture, where we rarely plow, not that there's never a time, but generally we don't want to disturb the earth that much. Let the levels stay in the right level, the aerobic levels at the top of the earth, and then the anaerobic bacteria deeper down, and not mixing them up and turning them and having them start all over every year. Yeah. Show and tell day at work, and that's the idea of kind of staying enthusiastic like children about new things you're learning. War on Poverty Day. That's help eradicate poverty. Okay, and then I want to tell you about another mango, and this is we've read about all the Peterson pawpaws, and remember all those Peterson pawpaws, which I generally only like to use the public domain plants to talk about, but I think so highly of the owner, Michael McConkey, I think it is, of Edible Landscaping, that I went ahead and included all of his Peterson pawpaws. But this first pawpaw that is not a trademarked one is the mango pawpaw. And a mango pawpaw obtained from a collector in Tifton, Georgia, are large, native, early ripening, and very delicious fruits. Yellow flesh reminiscent of a mango with very smooth texture. Your mango pawpaw, and it is an Asamina triloba. And then I also wanted to tell you just a little bit more about our permaculture book, about Permaculture for Beginners by Carrie Mitchell. And thank you, Carrie Mitchell, for sharing this with us. In Chapter 1, Soil Life. Soil is a living, breathing ecosystem. The healthiest plants come from the most biodiverse and biologically active soil. That's why we don't want to plow, because that breaks down all that, the biology, and makes it have to start over, finding its equilibrium. It rips out the mycelium that's so important, the fungal growth. Plants pump simple carbohydrates into the soil they occupy to feed this soil life, because they need that life to return the favor. Microbes break down organic matter and cycle nutrients, provide disease protection to the plants, and create good soil structure. There is a symbiotic relationship, an exchange of nutrients. Okay, and tomorrow we'll look into bacteria. Let's see, and a word for peace in Hungarian is Béke. Béke. So, Béke be with you. Peace be with you. Béke. Okay, now let's go take a look at our lesson for today, or our text reading, The Illusion of Needs. You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. Okay, key idea here. And Duck thinks so too, huh? You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. No learning is acquired by anyone unless he wants to learn it and believes in some way that he needs it. While lack does not exist in the creation of God, it is very apparent in what you have made. It is, in fact, the essential difference between them. Lack implies that you would be better off in a state somehow different from the one you are in. Until the, in quotes, separation, which is the meaning of the fall, nothing was lacking. There were no needs at all. Needs arise only when you deprive yourself. You act according to the particular order of needs you establish. This, in turn, depends on your perception of what you are. Paragraph 2. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need correct. This sense of separation would never have arisen if you had not distorted your perception of truth and had thus perceived yourself as lacking. These are some really key ideas. Let's read those two sentences again. Or I guess that may be, yeah. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need correct. This sense of separation would never have arisen if you had not distorted your perception of truth and had thus perceived yourself as lacking. The idea of order of needs arose because, having made this fundamental error, you had already fragmented yourself into levels with different needs. As you integrate, you become one, and your needs become one accordingly. Unified needs lead to unified action, because this produces a lack of conflict. Paragraph 3. The idea of order of need, which follows from the original error that one can be separated from God, requires correction at its own level before the error of perceiving levels at all can be corrected. Again on that sentence. the idea of order of needs, which follows from the original error that one can be separated from God, requires correction at its own level, being the error of perceiving levels at all. Before the error of perceiving levels at all can be corrected. I'm going to read that once again. The idea of orders of need, which follows from the original error that one can be separated from God. That's the original error, that you thought you could be separated from God. Requires correction at its own level before the error of perceiving levels at all can be corrected. You cannot behave effectively while you function on different levels. However, while you do, correction must be introduced vertically from the bottom up. This is because you think you live in space where concepts such as up and down are meaningful. Ultimately, space is as meaningless as time. Both are merely beliefs. 4. The real purpose of this world is to use it to correct your unbelief. You can never control the effects of fear yourself, because you made fear and you believe in what you made. In attitude, then, though not in content, you resemble your Creator. In attitude, then, though not in content, you resemble your Creator. Let's read that again. The real purpose of this world is to use it to correct your unbelief. You want to know what the purpose of the world is? Is to correct your unbelief. You can never control the effects of fear yourself, because you made fear and you believe in what you made. In attitude, then, though not in content, you resemble your Creator, who has perfect faith in His creations because He created them. Belief produces the acceptance of existence. Belief produces the acceptance of existence. That is why you can believe what no one else thinks is true. It is true for you because it was made by you. And the last paragraph, 5. All aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level, and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you are willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. In sorting, that's a very, very important idea. All aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level, and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you're willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. And before we read that, let me just mention to you that our lesson today, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts, and how he says that you're really not thinking about anything when you're thinking about the past. That the past is related to our concept of fear, and all aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level. In the present, in the eternal now, there is no past. All aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level, and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you're willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. So what is the test? All aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level, and therefore do not exist at all. So if you could say, well, that's a fear thought, so it must not be a reality thought. You may think of it that way. To whatever extent you're willing to submit your beliefs to this test, of whether it's a fear thought or a love thought, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. And of course, proper perception is miracle-mindedness, and that's what we're trying to reach to. In sorting out the false from the true, or the fearful from the loving, In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. Perfect love casts out fear. Of course, that's a quote directly out of 1 John chapter 4 and verse 18. Perfect love casts out fear. So in this italicized portion that he ends this chapter with, or this paragraph, this section, perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. And the ones who've been with me before have heard me talk about Bhavanam Kevalam, the yogic concept that only love is real, and only God is real, and only love is real, and that's all that exists. Bhavanam Kevalam. Well, when you're trying to sort out what's real in the world and what's unreal, what's true and what's false, it's really a matter of what is loving and what is fearful, what is in the present moment and what you've brought from the past into what seems to be the present, where your mind is blank. And that's what we're going to try to get a hold of today in our lesson. But this idea that he says back in the text, that in sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. Okay, and we're going to include that in our song today. And so I think we know what we're going to do. We're going to take a minute at least 3 times today. He says 4 or 5, but at least 3 though. And then we're going to start by I seem to be thinking about. We're going to close our eyes and just take a minute or so and just name the thoughts. And then after we've named several thoughts for that minute, we're going to then say, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Okay, well, we'll sing this little portion about perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love, but only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist, where we're just seeing something that is not real. And we're going to try to wake up from our dream of dreaming that something's real that's not. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I seem to be thinking about. What are you thinking about? I seem to be thinking about. I seem to be thinking about. I seem to be thinking about. And just naming those things. I seem to be thinking about. Of course, you'd have your eyes closed as you'd be saying, thinking to yourself, what are you thinking about? I seem to be thinking about. I seem to be thinking about. I seem to be thinking about. But my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. But my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. All All aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at that creative level, and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you are willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. Perfect love casts out fear. 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 If fear exists, then there is not perfect love, but only perfect love exists. Only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. Perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love, but only perfect love exists. Only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. But then today, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I seem to be thinking about I seem to be thinking about I seem to be thinking about but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. But my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Stay in the present moment. As Ram Dass said, be here now and let the past go. Stay in the present moment. Be a joy germ today. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Let's root them out and let them go. But right now, we're not even being encouraged in A Course in Miracles to let them go. We're just trying to recognize what we're thinking about, being mindful of what's in our minds. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. And our word in Hungarian is Béke, for peace. So may you go in Béke. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Béke.